But I think what I am most proud of for like EduMit is not like the money I earned or like the good marketing or something. I'm just proud of like the impact I made on children. Because if I had what I like gave other people, I would be so much better off. And that's kind of what my original mission was, right? You know, giving
Right.
accessible education to people. And even for ASAP, I had one student on financial aid who came to my class for free since, you know, she didn't have the economic conditions that were needed. Overall, bringing accessible education is what I have done and is what I'm most proud of and is going to be my main goal moving forward.
Today I have another student joining us. His name is Eric. Eric has had quite the journey when it comes to entrepreneurship. I still remember when Eric applied for my incubator, he submitted this idea and then he ended up creating something totally different. So Eric will tell us a little bit about his progress, his trials, his tribulations, and hopefully you guys find this interview useful. But I'm going to shut up now and let Eric take over. So if you could just introduce yourself, Eric, tell us where you're from, what are some of your hobbies?
My name is Eric. I was born in California. I've lived in Beijing for a few years. And from my second to eighth grade, I've lived in Princeton, New Jersey. When I was in eighth grade, I applied to private high schools. I got into Lawrenceville and Exeter. I am a rapper, an entrepreneur, a chess player. I'm an investor, photographer, debater, and a lot of other things too. I am in the Phillips Exeter Academy, class of 2024, and I'm super excited to, I guess, kick off this year.
Wow. So you do lots of different kinds of stuff. Yeah. Why don't you tell us about your initiative and how that got started?
All right, so I made this initiative called EduMit, and I guess I'll start with the story first. So you guys already know that I got accepted into Lawrenceville and Exeter, but you guys don't know that during my admissions process, it was one of the worst things I've ever experienced. I don't want to blame like the schools or anything, but it was just the fact that I had a lack of resources. You know, I found out about the essay prompts 2 months before the deadline, and I basically had like no idea what I was doing. I didn't have anyone to ask, no one to turn to, and finding online resources was very hard because I had no idea what was reliable and what wasn't. Luckily, somehow I made it out and I got accepted to Exeter and Lawrenceville, but I do not want this experience to happen to other people who are simply looking for a better education. And that's kind of why I founded EduMit. The main goal of EduMit is to provide accessible and informative education to specifically middle schoolers, but also just to people in general. We do this with a lot of methods. You know, first, obviously, we teach Zoom lessons, which are the norm now. We hold webinars, and we're about to start making a YouTube channel for like podcasts, vlogs, I guess, all that cool stuff. Our mission is, in a sense, like removing the stigma from private high school applications, but also just like, you know, guiding little kids to succeed, I guess.
Very cool. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more of your timeline. Like, how long did it take to get set up? When did you get your first customer? What was that like?
All right, cool. So actually, I attended basically all of the courses that GenEd offers. Plug. So after the GenEd webinars, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
So like after like the main group lessons, I was really inspired, and so I wanted to apply to the incubator. And Kevin mentioned this before, but for my application to the incubator, I applied for a clothing brand. Just looking back now, my application was absolutely horrific. I have no idea why Kevin accepted me, but I'm so lucky that he accepted me into the incubator. And so around that time, I was kind of like giving up on the idea of a clothing brand because it was just really not my sort of thing. But then around that time also, since I got into Exeter, a lot of friends were asking me like, how do I apply? You know, like what schools, and like really trying to get advice from me. And I'm really happy to give it to them, right? Because I want to help them out. But after a certain point, it became kind of tiring because so many people were asking, but also because I wanted to influence more and more people because I could see the influence I was having on these other kids. And so I decided to start my first ever webinar. The webinar was called High School Applications Introduction. It was just 3 1-hour classes every week on Monday. I had my first session, I think around July 8th. A few weeks before that, I just started marketing and everything. I just used what the Gen Ed webinar taught me, and I somehow got like 19 signups.
Oh.
And also to add on, the entry fee was $50 per person. So that was a quick few $100s.
And you did that in like 3 weeks.
Right. In like a few weeks, I had this idea. I'm like, all right, let's just do it. I think one afternoon, I just banged out like a Google form and like started my website making. So after my first main session, I earned a few $100s. I'm like, yo, this is a great idea. It actually works. And I got really great feedback too, because during the whole time I was collecting feedback on Google Forms, right? I got like around like a 9 on average. So I was like, whoa, like this is pretty cool. And so I decided to launch High School Applications Introduction again. This time it was called High School Applications Introduction 2.0, really creative. And so I launched that. And then right after, okay, one sec.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, Eric's lights go off every 15 minutes if he doesn't move in the room to conserve energy, I think. They didn't have that when I was at Exeter. Crazy new tech. Keep going, Eric.
Okay, so right after I launched my second High School Applications Introduction course, I wanted to do something really advanced, right? I could see that I was giving really good guidance to all my students, but since there were so many people in the program, I really couldn't make it really tailored, and I couldn't, for instance, give them homework and review it because I had other things to do as a student. So that's how I decided to establish Advanced School Applications Introduction, also known as ASAP. And for that course, I accepted 6 students. Basically, we really just talked about a lot of prompts, right? Not specifically high school application essay prompts from previous years, but just giving them like life prompts, like for instance, what is your life goal? What is your life mission? Or like, what is your favorite hobby? Why? I told them if you want to really figure out what you're passionate about, try a lot of new things and then make 3 lists. So one list is the things you love and then like in order. So for instance, the top is like the thing you love most. And a second list is based on how much of an impact your activity does. So for instance, something like community service definitely has like a bigger impact than, let's just say, science ball or something, right? For the third list, I did it based on how good you are at it. And for that, I just kind of helped them figure out exactly like what they wanted, but also, encouraging them to try new things at the same time. And actually what I discovered while teaching ASAP is that high school applications have a lot to do with life in general, right? High schools want to accept students who are doing good in life, right? who can do good in life. I know this sounds really cliche and everything, but if you like know who you are, like you'll actually do really well because you can present who you are.
Yeah, the self-awareness is so key. I mean, basically the application is, they ask almost identical questions to that. And it's crazy that you mentioned those 3 categories. What were they? Impact, how much you love it, and then how good you are at it, right? And so when I was meeting with like my best friend's mom, and she was telling me, Kevin, like this is probably like your career at the epicenter of those 3 circles. If you imagine like a triple Venn diagram, I think it's amazing that you're getting kids to think about this when they're like, what, 12 years old, 11 years old. Your competitive advantage is that you had just done this process yourself. And so it was all fresh in your mind. And plus they trust you and you have a unique connection to them. Whereas like some like 25-year-old washed up senior like myself talking to them, I'm not as close to them. It's also hilarious that you did the same kind of funnel, right? You had this big wide net where you did a webinar and you had, how many kids in your webinar, Eric?
I think around 50 to 60 signups.
50 to 60 signups, $50 each.
Oh, wait, no. I had a webinar and like a group lesson. So for the group lesson, I got like 19 signups the first time. But for like the webinar, like the free webinar, I had like 50 signups.
Oh, very smart. So you use this free webinar as almost like a marketing tactic.
Yeah, it was marketing for High School Applications Introduction 2.0.
Gotcha. Okay, so you have a webinar, then the group lessons, and then the ASAP, the specialized program.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds really familiar. I wonder where that's from. Oh, it's almost like, Kevin's ZenEd webinars and incubator. At any rate, I think this is good because it's almost like we're sending ripples out and it just keeps spreading and generating more value across the board. I was wondering if you could tell us what was the part of the program, like starting, that you are most proud of and maybe your deepest regret, so we can take a look at both sides of the coin.
Okay, so I guess the part of the program that I was most proud of, also in the Advanced School Applications program, ASAP, I had one-on-one sessions with each of my student and also like their parents. And I think that's probably what I was most proud of because that's when I really like spoke to them individually and where I could really find out their passions and like who they were and really give them really tailored guidance.
Yeah.
I think that was like the most beneficial part of my program. But I think what I am most proud of for like EduMit is not like the money I earned or like the good marketing or something. I'm just proud of like the impact I made on children, because if I had what I like gave other people, I would be so much better off. And that's kind of what my original mission was, right? Giving accessible education to people. And even for ASAP, I had one student on financial aid who came to my class for free since, she didn't have the economic conditions that were needed. Overall, bringing accessible education is what I have done and is what I'm most proud of and is going to be my main goal moving forward. My biggest like pitfall, I guess, and like the thing I would regret, to be honest, I don't really have any regrets since I learned from all my mistakes. But like, I guess my biggest mistake in a sense, even before I made EduMit like as the brand, I started this, like I just had like a whim one day and I was like, I should make an education company. So I literally just like called my friend and then we talked and I'm like, yo, do you want to co-found this education company with me? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then after like a week of like nothing happening, I'm like, I basically did a lot of work and like it was very hard to contact him. After a while, I just realized like having a co-founder isn't always the best thing, like especially for like an education company when you really don't need two people. And Kevin knows this too, right? You know, establishing something education related, you don't need other people. Of course, like if you grow into like $1 million company, you might want to hire other people, right? But I think the thing I lacked was confidence. You know, I thought I couldn't do this by myself, you know, like having another person made me feel secure and like approved. But really, you know, when you're making something, just go for it. And if you need more people, then get more people, right? But don't always just think like you can't do it by yourself, because most of the time you can. And I discovered that the hard way by like wasting like a few weeks of time and like just being nervous for a long time. But I guess now I realize like I got the power.
Wow. So yeah, that's a crazy insight. I think that the biggest issue with co-founders is you all need like the same level of commitment, right? It's not fair if someone's putting in like 40 hours a week, another person's putting in like 10 hours a week. And especially if there's like a drastic difference, then it's not really going to work out. I typically recommend for your first initiative, just do it by yourself, because there's that African proverb, if you want to do things quickly, do it yourself. But if you want to go far, then do it with a team. Okay, my next question, and honestly, we're almost running out of time. So I was just wondering if you could touch upon really quickly, what's your plan for the future? And then after that, if you have any tips for kids who are just starting out an initiative or on the fence.
So I guess what's coming up next for EduMit, I'm obviously, you know, establishing a YouTube channel. I filmed a vlog for like my first day of Exeter. I'm going to edit that, put it on YouTube. That's going to be pretty cool. Check out, guys, audience, look out for that. I need to make the big decision of whether I want to have EduMit as a LLC or a nonprofit. And I'm definitely thinking a lot about that. That decision is probably going to be made within the coming months. As for, I guess, guidance for people who are just starting, and actually for anyone, literally anyone, I forgot where I got this quote, but if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And that has to do with confidence. Like I said before, you know, the example with the co-founder and everything, you have to believe in yourself to be able to do anything. You either believe in yourself and do something, or just don't do that thing at all.
For those kids who are like really shy or they're not sure if they can do an initiative, how do you find that confidence, right?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think just knowing that, okay, this is going to get really philosophical, but basically, you know, one day I was thinking like, when I'm like 80 years old and I look back at what I do, what am I going to be proud of? Am I going to be proud of sitting in my chair and feeling pity for myself? Am I going to feel proud of playing video games or like just like wasting all my time? No, I would be proud of my actions that have a great significant impact on others. And sitting around and lying around doing nothing all day, you're going to regret it 80 years from now, 90 years from now.
That is some powerful motivational stuff. It's crazy that you're 13, 14 years old and you're like, oh, I'm just thinking about like, should I make an LLC or should I make a nonprofit? Like, what a crazy question for a 9th grader. And also this concept of like, maybe imagine you're at your funeral. Like, what are people going to say about you, right? Looking back at your life, what did you do? What did you accomplish? Hopefully people aren't like, Kevin, that guy, he just sat on his bum and played League of Legends all day. Maybe they say, I mean, I did do that. You know, I spent a lot of time doing that, not gonna lie, but I also try to do other stuff like this as well. Thank you so much, Eric. I mean, I think this was a really great interview, and hopefully people watching this at home, if you're a student or a parent, or maybe you're just like my friend and you want to watch this and support the channel. I hope you guys learned something and found some inspiration in this video.
All right. And I also want to add, I completely forgot to mention this, but at the end of this summer, in like 2 months, I earned $2,000 in revenue. I donated $1,200 to the All of Us movement and the Cancer Research Institute. I got 250 emails on my email list, and it's only going to get better from here. You know, I completely forgot to mention, but I'm donating over half of my profits for every single thing I do as part of EduMit.
Wow. It's hard to argue with the cold, hard numbers. That's all you need to do. If I ask you like, how's your initiative going? And you tell me those numbers, I'm like, I'm out of here. He doesn't need me. I am like so proud of you. I'm thinking back to your first Paramount application, and I'm not going to lie, guys. It was like,
No
It was like
bueno.
pretty bad. And Eric was like the comeback kid. And so super duper proud, impressed, and honestly inspired by your progress. So keep it up, man.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. All right, we'll get this video up soon. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you next week.